Hi, I'm Liz Sparrow. I'm a member of the British gliding team and I race gliders. And today I'm going to take you through your Glider Pilot Navigation Challenge. You're going to fly your first cross-country route and avoid forbidden airspace. But first, do you know what gliding's about? Gliders have no engines and they rely on pilot skill and rising air to keep them flying. They can go high, fast and far. Here are some stats. Up into the stratosphere, and a distance further than from here to Egypt, all without an engine. But they do need a hand getting airborne, and there are two ways normally you get airborne. First is a winch launch, where you pull a cable out the length of the airfield, and as you can see from the picture, you then winch it in, and the glider can go up on the end of the winch and be launched very quickly. It's better than Formula One acceleration. It's a really quick, easy, great way to get into the air. Alternatively, you can have an aerotow, where you tow behind a powered plane, and that can take you to a specific place or a specific height. But once you're up there, then, because you have no engine, you need to find rising air to climb in. And you can see here a glider flying into a column of rising air, hot air coming off a town. If we circle in it, overall we climb. So what then happens is that as the air rises, it cools and a cloud forms, and the puffy summer clouds that you get, cumulus clouds, they're marking where air has risen. So what glider pilots do, and you can see a diagram here, the glider pilots come in from the left, found a column of rising air, circling in it, climbing, gliding off again, climbing in the next one, gliding off to the next one, climbing, and so on. Series of climb, glide, until you get to your destination. And you might well ask, what happens if there are no thermals? Well, without thermals, the glider will just continue to lose height, and if we can't make it back to the airfield, we have to pick a field and land. It's part of our training to be able to do that. Then we take the glider apart, put it in a trailer, and drive it home, and you can see pictures here showing that. And part of our training, we have to pick a field whilst we're still high enough to be able to select a suitable field and plan our landing, so about 500 metres above the ground. There are two important concepts when we're flying cross-country. One is glide ratio, or how far we can go for a given height loss, and the other is controlled airspace, where we are and aren't allowed to fly. Let's talk about glide ratio. And I've got a little animation for you here. Here's a little light aircraft, a Cessna, typical thing you'd see flying around. If that started 100 metres up, it could glide 900 metres. It has a glide ratio of 9:1. A Boeing 747's much better. That'll do 1700 metres from 100 metres up, with a glide ratio of 17:1. But if you really want to glide, you want a glider. And the Nimbus 4 will do 6000 metres from 100 metres up, a glide ratio of 60:1. My glider has got a ratio of about 50:1. But you don't always get that. Air is rising and sinking everywhere out there. You may not get the glide angle you expect. If you fly through rising air, it might be better, but it might be worse. So you have to bear that in mind. And so here we go. Part 1 of our Glider Pilot Navigation Challenge. How far can you glide? So what you need to know, your glider has a glide ratio of 50:1 at your flying speed, which is going to be 110 kph. You don't need that for the first question, but you'll need it later. And you're going to start overhead an airfield at 1500 metres. How far can you glide from your start point? Construct a graph showing it. Over to you. And this is what my graph looked like. Here I have my start point, 1500 metres up. Here I've got distance across the bottom, and if I construct a glide ratio of 50:1 from 1500 metres to 500 metres is a kilometre, and so I can construct a slope of 50 kilometres, and there is my 50:1 glide angle. I could carry on, but of course at 500 metres I need to pick a field, so effectively I can go 50 kilometres if I start at 1500 metres. Okay, Now let's talk about that second thing, controlled airspace. Airspace is roads in the sky, and here's an air map. We have to learn to interpret this. What are we looking at? Here's London with the Thames coming in. Here's the River Severn going up there. And everything here is some form of airspace that you may or may not be allowed in. This is square around Heathrow here, Heathrow in the middle, and if you took off going out to America, you'd fly out this way, up this is an airway we're flying up here, out over England, out over Wales, and off to America. So let's just have a look at a little bit, and let's just zoom in to this bit here, and can you see we've got a blue circle, a red circle, and a sort of complicated box. Let's just have a look at that. Here's our blue circle, here's our red circle, and here's the corner of our box. Now, if we looked on an air map, we'd see that this one here has a radius of 2.5 kilometers and it's 5,000 meters high. This has a radius of 4 kilometers, it's only 700 meters high. And this box shape, which intersects with the circle, this is 1,100 meters high. Now, what we've got here, every time we fly, we carry a GPS with a little logger that tracks where we've been so we can prove we didn't go into forbidden airspace. And here's a track that I flew through here not very long ago, and at this point here the glider is at 1,500 meters, so it's higher than this, but not as high as this one. Let's have a look at what that would look like in 3D. Here's the glider, 1,500 meters up. Looking down on, here's the red circle, 700 meters high. It's sort of like a pound coin laid on the floor, whereas this one here is more like a bean can. We're looking at the side of that, and you can see we're looking at the top of that box that was 1,100 meters high. And I can just run you a little animation showing us flying through that gap. Here's the glider just on the horizon. You can see we're looking down on the pound coin, looking down on the box, but looking at the side of the bean can. So we need to avoid and stay clear of that. And you can see other airspace in the background. And here we are, we've flown successfully through that gap. Perfect. So that's what airspace is like, and now you're ready for your Glider Pilot Navigation Challenge Part 2 to fly your first cross-country route and avoid that forbidden airspace. So your challenge is to fly from your home gliding club at Sandhill Farm to land at Bicester Airfield. You must avoid forbidden airspace, and ideally you don't land out along the way. There are a number of badges you have in gliding, and your silver distance you can claim when you've done 50 kilometers, so this is 50.9, just far enough. And here's what you need to know. Your glider has a glide ratio of 50 to 1. You're going to fly at 110 kph. Starting at Sandhills Farm, you must arrive at Bicester at least 500 metres and remain above 500 metres all the way, else you'll have to pick a field. You must avoid forbidden airspace, and because you don't know whether there will be air going up or down, you need to plot a 100-metre safety margin on that. You can climb in thermals wherever you find them. Whilst you're circling in your climb, you'll stay in the same place. You don't move along your route. You don't have to take every thermal, you can take the ones you need. And we've got a map for you, and because you can't look out and see where the clouds are marking the thermals, we've marked them on the map. And each of these green stars is a thermal that will climb to 1,500 metres at a rate of 100 metres per minute. You could take any of them, but your track is from Sandhill Farm at the bottom, along the blue line, up to Bicester. But you can see it goes through various bits of airspace which are all marked on the map. The circles tend to be round, smaller airfields, and a bigger airfield may have a bigger piece of airspace around it, like this one here over Bryce Norton. So, and in fact, do you recognise this? Here's the blue circle, here's the red circle, and here's the complicated box shape. That's where we were looking just now. Right, we've drawn a grid for you. You can scale off this map, and what we're going to do is construct a route that we can fly that will keep you clear of airspace. Let's do an example. So if we started off by flying from Sandhill Farm down at the bottom here up to another airfield, Little Rissington, it's up there, look. This is 10, 20, 30, so about 31 kilometres. If we were to just climb to 1,500 metres and then start gliding out, we'd enter the airspace here at about 7 kilometres, and we'd be in this area of airspace all the way to, what, 23? So what would that look like? Here we are, 31 kilometres to Little Rissington. I've drawn the airspace in from 7 kilometres up to 23, and it's 1100 metres high. Now if we start at 1500 metres, here's the line, and oh dear, we're not clear of the airspace. We would actually go into the airspace. We certainly wouldn't be 100 metres clear. This is the 100 metre line. So that's no good. We can't just glide in a straight line. What could we do instead? Yes, well, there's a thermal here. We can see it. So what we could do is we could fly over to here, climb in this thermal, and glide on our way. Now if we do that, as you can see, we have to fly a bit further before we get to the airspace. That's about, what, 8 kilometres? And the distance to the thermal's about 15 kilometres. So let's see what that would look like. So overall, we've got to fly a little bit further, but can we do it and stay clear of airspace? If we draw the same picture, here we are, the airspace starting this time at about 8 kilometres along our track and carrying on till 23 again. If we start here, we climb at 15 kilometres where the thermal was, we can climb up to 1500 metres and we stay well clear of the airspace. We're certainly more than 100 metres clear of our airspace, and we would arrive at this height here over Little Rissington. So we don't get anywhere near 500 metres, don't have to worry about landing out in a field. And that's what you're going to do now with your route to Bicester. So, are you ready for the Glider Pilot Navigation Challenge? Will you successfully avoid forbidden airspace and arrive at Bicester to claim your silver distance badge? Or will you land out in a farmer's field? Use the information in your student workbook, answer the challenge questions to find out. Good luck!
Hi, we hope you enjoyed the challenge and found it fun and interesting. We're from Junior Gliding. I'm Lucy and I'm 17 and I've been gliding for 3 years.
And I'm Em, I'm 16 and I've been gliding for 2.
Did you know that you can fly on your own in a glider before you can drive a car?
If you want to find out more about gliding, go to the British Gliding Association website, www.gliding.co.uk.
There are around 80 gliding clubs across the UK.
We hope to see you in the skies soon.